at the same time, their sales are growing, and I get that it's from a low base. The stock recently hit an all-time low. What is the bar very low for a Rivian to outperform, I guess is my question, compared to a Tesla, which you do have a buy on?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a name that if they beat that, or if they raise their guidance, you would see a huge up move in the stock. Absolutely, because expectations are so low. And with Tesla, it's had a bit of a run, right, the past few weeks since results. I still think there's more upside there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a buy. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Rivian, if there was something positive, it would be met very well by the market. But there's a reason for that, right? Why are expectations so low? It's because it's more challenging. Tesla was able to start out when they were the only game in town for EVs. They're profitable. Rivian's now really trying to make a push. The R2 is going to go right up against legacy players, Jeep and GM and Ford, Bronco, and legacy guys are making EVs now, and they have to face Tesla. So it's a lot harder for them. That's why the expectations are lower.
That was Tom Narayan, RBC Capital's lead equity analyst of global autos, talking about how Tesla stock is a better EV stock pick than Rivian, which recently reported Q1 earnings that showed a net loss of $1.45 billion compared to last year's $1.35 billion. Narayan has previously said that he was bullish on Tesla because of autonomy and robotaxis, which are technologies that no other EV company is attempting at a large scale like Tesla is. His current price target on Tesla stock indicates his bullishness, as he expects it to go to $293, which is an upside of 65% from where Tesla stock is currently trading. So in today's video, we're going to talk about some new FSD features that are making analysts and investors go all in on Tesla stock, and also the autonomy bets that Tesla's competitors are making and how they pale in comparison to FSD. But before we do that, if you want to keep up with Tesla's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates. Now, back to today's video.
All right, Seth, and you cover Tesla, so let's talk about the headlines that were out today on Tesla. We're getting some new data, preliminary data, I should mention, from China Passenger Car Association, showing that Tesla sales in China for the month of April actually slid about 18% on a year-over-year basis. How are you looking at this from an analyst perspective exactly? I guess maybe is the worst not behind it then for Tesla when we're talking about demand, and especially what we're seeing out of China, which is an extremely important region here for the company?
Well, I think what we're seeing is new energy vehicles continue to grow in China. And if we assume that the report is correct, the final numbers come in, Tesla saw an April year-over-year sales decline, then it shows that the reason why Elon Musk is making larger transformational reorganizational changes at the company and why they cut prices in China towards the end of April. That combined with the trade-in subsidy that the Chinese government issued towards the end of April, I think will help Tesla to set themselves up for a better rest of the year. But, if they do have another month of declining sales, I think now we're seeing why Elon Musk is taking a lot more what might be seen as drastic steps towards, righting Tesla's employee side, trying to reduce costs and trying to reduce prices to spur vehicle growth.
Seth, can Tesla compete in China in the long run? When you take a look at the domestic players, much cheaper offerings than what Tesla is able to compete with. Yes, they have slashed their prices, but what is 3 to 5 years out? What does that look like then for Tesla, do you think, in the Chinese market?
Well, I think for Tesla, the important thing is that they can now sell FSD in the coming months. And that is a differentiator of Tesla's technology versus many other EV producers. So I think for Tesla within China, they're not in the affordable vehicle market. So yes, there are a lot of longer range, cheaper EVs out there. And for consumers who only care about price, Tesla is likely not going to be the go-to choice in China right now. But Tesla can still compete in the high-end luxury market on a technology standpoint with FSD, and I think that can help them to drive sales over the next several years, assuming that for their entry-level luxury space where the Model 3 and the Model Y compete, that they're at a comparable price with their peers.
It's no secret that Rivian, like many other automakers, is pursuing autonomy like Tesla. The company's CEO, RJ Scaringe, has cited automated driving and augmented reality as upcharge opportunities on a previous earnings call. Rivian vehicles already ship with driver assistance features, dubbed Driver Plus. Yet, Rivian doesn't offer Level 3 autonomy, as Driver Plus requires drivers to pay full attention to the road and warns them to keep their hands on the wheel. Still, Rivian has been hiring autonomous driving engineers for a while now, as shown in their careers page. But Tesla has one thing over Rivian, as well as all the other automakers that are attempting to solve autonomy, and that's data. There are over 5 million Tesla vehicles on the road globally, and each of them collects data from real situations that Tesla could use to train its FSD software, and as the company expands FSD into other countries like China and Germany, the software gets used to more landscapes and gathers a lot more important data. Comparatively, other EV companies have very few cars on the road compared to Tesla. For example, Rivian has delivered just over 71,300 vehicles in total, and it actually loses $38,000 per vehicle. FSD keeps improving with every update Tesla releases, and Elon Musk recently talked about his vision for what FSD will be able to do in the future, which is something that definitely differentiates Tesla from its competitors. Let's take a look at what he had to say. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Investocracy.
You have a small position, speaking of driving, autonomous driving and the like in Tesla, which you revealed on our program the last time we spoke. What takes it from a quote-unquote small position to something larger? What do you need to see from Elon and that company from here?
Well, first, let me say, I think Elon's done an extraordinary job, and I think his advantage in AI and full self-driving relative to all the other manufacturers in the world is deeply underappreciated. I described FSD 12 as a chat GPT moment for self-driving. After 10 years of marginal improvements, we had a profound breakthrough around the imitation learning of FSD 12. I think that will be an incredibly valuable asset to the company. I don't think it's an asset that can be replicated by other OEMs in the United States. They simply lack the data. And this is data in, pixels in, and control plane out. So unless you have the data, you're going to have a very hard time catching Tesla in full self-driving. I don't think BYD is going to be able to, play in that game either. And I thought it was fascinating. At the moment that the United States is banning TikTok, that the Chinese government is providing permission to Tesla to do full self-driving in partnership with Baidu in China. It shows the resilience and the strength of the relationships that Elon Musk has in China and that Tesla has in China, and their own push toward AI. So I think, you can't think of the company as an auto company. You have to think of it as a technology company. Today, we think that it's, fully valued. It's been a volatile ride, but we think this may be one of the companies that can break through on energy, can break through on AI and FSD. And so we're paying very close attention, because if we start to see the adoption and the conversion on FSD that we think is possible, this will be a story like Apple and services, where services becomes an increasingly important part of their profit makeup.
Elon Musk recently gave some updates on the progress of Tesla's FSD software. On X, he responded to a video of Tesla's new auto park feature, which was captioned, "Less steps, bigger visualizations, and spot-on accuracy." He said that this was pure AI vision auto park, and that soon enough, a Tesla vehicle will be able to take its owner to their destination and park automatically, unless the owner asks it to do otherwise. Additionally, he also commented on how few of the miles driven with the system engaged are actually useful for training the neural net-based model, emphasizing the need for as many training miles as possible. Elon wrote on X that only 1 out of every 10,000 miles of distance driven is actually useful for training the FSD neural network, which may come as surprisingly low to some. He also said that Tesla and FSD are no longer AI training compute constrained, but rather that validation of driving circumstances is now the system's most significant limiting factor. With Tesla's shift to end-to-end neural network vehicle control in FSD version 12, the need for increased validation, which possibly means Tesla testing a new version of the system after it's been trained before they can actually deploy it to customers, makes sense, given that the model is now being trained on millions of clips of video from real-world human driving scenarios instead of human-written code and rules-based processing. Also, as Elon highlights, interventions are also becoming less as the software improves from this camera and video-based training, predicating the need for increased validation, especially to handle unique road scenarios. The fact that it trains using real-world situations is what makes Tesla's FSD way ahead of the competition, and now as it attempts to perfect autopark, Tesla is working on one of the last pieces of the puzzle, as Elon has said. We already have FSD working amazingly well on surface roads and highways, so autopark is definitely the right thing to pursue next. According to the state-owned Chinese newspaper China Daily, Tesla is planning to roll out its robo-taxis in China, and Elon Musk suggested implementing Tesla's FSD in China's taxi services. So we should expect insane improvements in both FSD and autopark before the robotaxi event in August, as Tesla can't have a functional robotaxi system without parking. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
How much stock did you put on reports, and I think this was a Taiwan-based organization that reported that Apple could be exploring a partnership with Rivian? Would that make sense to you that Rivian would be looking to some sort of partner to kind of get scale, to help them with this, this manufacturing issue that, you keep coming back to?
Yeah, I mean, Rivian's been talked about in the press a lot, and we've written about it as a company that potentially could partner with somebody. It's been discussed that potentially another automaker who wants a presence in the U.S. in the SUV and pickup truck space, maybe a Chinese OEM, right, who wants to be in the U.S. or Volkswagen has their Scout brand they're trying to make, and people always talk about them potentially. I mean, Stellantis has Jeep, potentially this partner. I mean, it's always been circulated discussions. Rivian is a great brand, right? And it's difficult. The hardest thing to do is make the brand that people want, and they've done that. It's just there's a liquidity issue and a logistical issue. So certainly it wouldn't be surprising that there's maybe discussions going on. But with Apple, remember, there's a history of them announcing things and then things not happening in autos. Autos is a very difficult space. And it's one that, if you're Apple, you want to have really high margins. Autos are not a very high margin business. So unclear about that one. But certainly it's been discussed a lot that there are potential partners, specifically in the auto space for companies who want a presence in North America for what they do. That's definitely something that we've heard about.
Alex, what do you think of the possibility of Apple working in the car business in some way, if not to manufacture an automobile?
Yeah, I think that their Project Titan, right, the self-driving program that they had, if it was worth anything, it would have been sold already. I think it was worth so little that they just decided to shut it down and cut ties with it. Now, I could see Rivian seeing the improvements that Tesla's made in its full self-driving and getting on the phone with Apple and being like, hey, Apple, that self-driving thing, is that working anymore? And Apple being like, well, let's have a conversation about it. And that, to me, is as far as this probably got. Now, I do think that Apple and Rivian could combine in a pretty impressive partnership if Apple's CarPlay is more deeply integrated into Rivian cars. And by the way, there's been all this rumors about maybe Apple one day could have, had a conversation with Elon Musk about acquiring Tesla, and it never did. Is Rivian a target for Apple in the future with all that cash it has and its need for growth? I think that's something to keep thinking about.
Recently, there have been talks about Rivian partnering up with Apple to develop self-driving EVs, so Apple can fund Rivian and enter the EV industry again after it abandoned its own EV project. As we've seen in the videos, Apple has a history of not sticking to its plans in this sector, and maybe it might acquire Rivian to build its Apple car, but none of this actually matters or is a threat to Tesla. Many people make Rivian appear like the second in line to the EV throne in the US, but there's a stark difference between it and Tesla. Just look at the two companies' revenue for last year. Tesla made $96.7 billion, while Rivian made $4.4 million. As for autonomy, Tesla has the data advantage, and even if Apple teams up with Rivian, it's very unlikely that the two companies will be able to come up with something good enough to compete with Tesla when Tesla spent billions on developing FSD and Tesla AI over a long time, so it's very hard for competitors to catch up. However, one thing that Tesla investors should keep in mind is that NHTSA recently released a letter asking Tesla to release a lot of data about Autopilot because it isn't satisfied with how Tesla treated its latest Autopilot recall. NHTSA is asking for a lot of data, and Tesla has until July 1st to comply with the request or face up to $135 million in fines, but they could always ask for an extension. Still, this will definitely be a thorn in Tesla's side, as it might be hard for the company to put together all of this data for NHTSA, especially after its multiple rounds of layoffs. Additionally, Tesla's Autopilot data becoming public could be risky because it'd be exposed to competitors, but we should keep in mind that this data becoming public could be good for consumers and transparency, and the request doesn't include FSD data, so Tesla would still have that edge. With EV stocks, many people will tell you that you should invest in this company or that startup, and while those companies might have great products, they still can't compete with Tesla in the US or even globally, as only BYD can really compete with Tesla, and it's already an established player that also makes hybrids and gas cars. Other EV companies are losing money, so even if Tesla experiences moments of slowdown, it's still better than competitors and has more advanced technologies tied to its name, and that's what makes the stock worth having for investors who want to enter the EV market. So, what do you think about Tesla's FSD updates? And where do you think Tesla stock is going next? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to tell us what your valuation for Nvidia is. If you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.